Hello, sacred explorers, and those of you just wandering by. Thank you for being here. So, I was getting ready, or I had started doing the reading for the new moon, and normally I just share that in my monthly membership. However, I decided to do a couple things differently today. One of them being I felt pulled to do a sacred path reading, which I have not done in quite some time. And then I also felt shared to do it like in this my initial impressions, Cliff Notes version that I could share elsewhere. And I don't really ask myself why. Like, I don't have a goal in sharing this on socials when I decide to. It's simply because I felt the pull to do it, and that happens only a fraction of the time. So I try to follow through on it. So here we are. So a sacred path reading comes from the structure that I was given in my business 10 years ago. And those, at that time, they were the 4 pillars of inner sanctuary. I now see them kind of as elements, aspects. They're just this guiding journey to aligning with our soul. And they are path, pace, passion, and grace. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about them in this video because, again, I want to keep it Cliff Notes, but I will give you enough so that you understand what I'm talking about, and I wanted you to know where these terms came from. I'm not currently offering Sacred Path readings, but if it's something that you're interested in, like this Cliff Notes version, reach out to me and I'll see if I have the space and time, mental space, energetic space, and physical time to support you in whatever way I can. All right, let's get started. So this is a new moon sacred path reading. So we're generally talking about this cycle, the next 4 weeks. And we start with path. So path is how we are in the world. So simply feet on the ground, hands out in the world. What is our best course of action this cycle? And again, remembering all this has to do with aligning with our soul. So the card I drew was, can't make this up, the Explorer. Now, I just said a few minutes ago, hello, sacred explorers, because that is my term for my tribe. And so this, spirit loves to make you laugh, delight you. But in this context, feet on the ground, hands out in the world, the explorer. So how do we really be the explorer as we're going throughout our day? Like all the very human stuff, our roles, relationships, and responsibilities. So think of yourself as being an explorer. And generally that means that we're in unknown territory. We are exploring it with fresh eyes. And so really think about how you would do that. And for me, like what I get is like this sense of not hesitancy, but kind of cautiousness. That dang squirrel. Cautiousness as I'm wanting to step slowly and take everything in, be the observer kind of, but in a way, what keeps coming through is it's like you're expecting things, seeking things, but with no expectation. So there's this amazing sense of awe and observing, exploring, being curious, remembering that this is the path element. So feet on the ground, hands out in the world, be the explorer. All right, second element, pace. This can best be summed up as human eyes, spiritual sight. And so the question I ask, and these change a little bit from reading to reading, but they have very structured core themes. What are we looking for to reduce resistance and improve just the life flow this cycle? And the card I drew was the universe. Right away, I hit with shifting our perspective to big picture, the universe. And with that comes reminding ourselves and being aware. I did not plan this, blinded. Being aware of all the interwoven nature of nature, the synergies, how we are supported. So as you're going through the next 4 weeks, if you start to feel stuck, you start to feel resistance, or you're just looking at how can I improve the flow of life this month, take a deep breath, zoom out, and remember the universe. You are part of the universe. Everything is interwoven. There is synergy. Look for the synergy. This element is also about one of its core themes is seeing signs and symbols. So that's part of our human eyes, but having spiritual sight. So it's asking us this cycle to regularly step out of the basic humanness of life and remembering that the bigger picture, that we are part of the universe. All right, moving on so I don't make this too long. The third element is passion. And this has to do with tending to our temple, our vehicle. I think of it as like vehicle maintenance, and freeing our soul. So the question I asked was, what do we need to focus on when it comes to self-care? Because in the sacred lifestyle system, in the sacred path, the element of passion is practicing self-care, and with the goal of our passions are not frivolous. They're important to unlocking our soul and letting that flow into our body, embodying our soul. It's like the playful way that we tap into that and embrace our soul. All right, I digress. So the card I drew for passion this reading is release. And what I found so interesting about this is I had just posted in the membership group yesterday in our Soul Sutras, which is little reflections, meditative prompts or reflections that I drop in there, was what are you willing to release in order to deepen your peace? And I'm like, gosh, this reading was already coming through yesterday. So passion, what do we need to focus on when it comes to self-care? Release. And what is coming through for this is it's not necessarily activities where you're mentally connecting, oh, I'm releasing. It may be, like weeding your garden or something. What are you giving up, getting rid of? But more importantly, realizing that as you go about your self-care activities, that you are releasing what needs to be released. So it's a reminder of why self-care is important this month, that it's not just because it's good for our vehicle maintenance, our body, tending to our temple, but deeper than that, body, mind, and soul, through our self-care, through enjoying our passions, we are releasing what is no longer serving us. And that naturally deepens our peace. And just a little more on this element. So the sacred power we unlock through practicing and working with this element, this oracle, is inner strength. And so how that's tied is through those self-care activities, through this month releasing what we no longer need to be holding on to, tending to our soul, letting our soul live through our passions. That's where I was going with that. We're naturally increasing our inner strength, our vitality, our resilience. So that's why your self-care is important this cycle, especially. Lastly, the element of grace. In the beginning, hopefully you remember that I said these pillars or elements are a journey towards aligning with our soul. And so while that journey really doesn't happen linearly, we have to have markers to go by. So while this is kind of at the pinnacle of that journey, and then, we start taking it over and over again through new levels, any of these can happen at any time through the month. But just so you know, this is like the pinnacle of how this journey is recorded and worked on a foundational level. Grace, therefore, has to do with transcendence and our true nature, embodying our truest nature. The sacred power we unlock through working with this element is inner wisdom. So my question for this reading was, how can we tune into our inner wisdom this month? And a lot of times this comes through as, what is the obstacle to us doing that? And the card I drew was Fate, which I thought so beautiful and supportive, because when you are a sacred explorer, a spiritual seeker, we get so wound up in the work and trying, and that can burn us out. So the reminder this month, is that it is our fate to align with our soul, to embody grace. It's part of our fate to practice self-compassion and to access our inner wisdom. Sometimes we just need to get out of our own way. So there isn't so much instruction in how to tap into your inner wisdom this month as it is remembering that fate is happening all around us, and that our spiritual nature is just that. While we are humans, our fate is our true nature. So it's helpful just to take a pause from the work and remember who we truly are, what we truly are. I hope that you have enjoyed this as condensed Cliff Notes version of a Sacred Path reading for this new moon as I could make. And if you have any questions about the elements or want to know more, or you're interested in a personal reading of this Cliff Notes, so about 15 minutes variety, please reach out. I love being asked questions. That is what invites my inner wisdom forward. And I always, always love being of service. Have a wonderful cycle and good luck on the path.